the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the V&T Railway. It's Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. It's 9:05 a.m. 4 of you are located in the Carson City Community Center Robert Bob Kroll boardroom, and I am on the phone remotely. So, Allison, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, I can. Clay Mitchell.
I'm here.
Leah Cruz.
Here.
David Peterson.
Present.
Stephanie Hicks.
Here.
Michelle Schmitter.
Here.
All right, great. We've got everybody on. Let's go ahead and do Pledge of Allegiance. Clay, would you mind taking the lead on the pledge there from the room?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, go ahead, you guys.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for that. We will go ahead and move on to agenda item 4, public comment. At this time, the public is invited to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of this public body. Is there any public comment in the room?
I don't see any public comment in the room, Dave.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 5 for possible action approval of the minutes of the May 24th, 2023 meeting. You guys have that in your packet. Are there any edits or changes that anybody would like to see?
Yes, Leah St. Marie for the record. There are 2 changes. On page 2, under item 6, under Stephanie Hicks, the dollar sign and the 2 are transposed in the 24,951 amount. And then on page 7, under Stephanie Hicks' first comment, towards the bottom, it should be want to assign you things that weren't part of what we talked, not were. So that should be weren't and not were. And that is it.
Okay, great. Okay, do any of the commissioners have any other changes on their end?
Everyone's shaking their head no.
Oh, good. Okay, lovely. All right. Anybody want the motion forward on the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of May 24th, 2023 with the changes as noted on the record.
Thank you for that motion, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Leah.
Thank you. Was that Michelle? Leah? Was that Leah? Okay, great, Leah. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. All right, before we go on to agenda item 6, I just want to let the commissioners know that we will have a closed door meeting with Michaela at the conclusion. So after we finish the meeting, then we'll have a closed door session with Michaela, okay? With that, we will go on to agenda item 6 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the election of a chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer for the V&T Commission. So all of our terms basically expire June 30th, so this Friday. So under section number 4 of the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the V&T Railway Act of 1993, as amended, the secretary and the treasurer may be one person, and the terms of the officers will expire, the new terms, July 1st, 2025. So you did have something sent to you yesterday by Michaela, just outlining the 4 different roles. And I thought, given the changes that are happening right with our vendors, that maybe it would be something that we all might consider having a secretary role, whereas in the past we've just had the chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer. So that was the document that Michaela sent out to everybody yesterday. So I just wanted to put a little bit of context around that for you all.
Good morning. This is Mihaela Niagos, Deputy District Attorney for the record. Because you're referencing, it's just the section 4 of the act. We have not submitted that as late material, but I have a copy. If you'd like to review a copy, and I
Sure.
can place it in the back as late material.
Thank you,
because you're
Mihaela.
referencing it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Mihaela. Yeah. That would be great if you could put that back there.
And then we can also post this on our website as late material. It's
Okay,
the entire, I actually have, this is more than what was submitted, is the entire act. Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the VNT Railway Act of 1993 as amended most recently in 2000. Uh, 17.
thank you, Mihaela.
David,
So-
this is Stephanie. Is it okay to have some
Yeah,
discussion on this?
ahead.
Is that appropriate to do that at this time?
Oh,
or-
yeah,
Okay.
please.
So I just,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to say
I'm
that,
trying to look at the video, you guys. Oh, sorry, sir. I'm trying to look at the video, but it's so far behind. It's like the last item. So my apologies for the delay. So go ahead, please.
that's okay. Well, in considering the fact that, we could have a fourth position as the secretary, I guess what I would just like to offer up is I think that there may be the ability for, particularly in consideration of the situation with atypical, I might be able to offer, and
Mhm.
I know I can offer for the city to assist with transcribing in minutes. I don't know if that will come out of
Okay.
the city manager's office or if I have not had a chance to ask the clerk recorder, but I'm confident one or the other would be able to do that. And that being the case, I would be glad to be the secretary to oversee that. I think
great.
I think it could be a better coordination for the treasurer's position to be a Story County position, only because I think that coordination with Jennifer is really important, and it, over the phone and via email is not as easy as being able to just stop by. But if there isn't anybody that would be interested in taking that on, I would stay as treasurer, but at this point, I think as secretary, I could facilitate minutes and, get that taken care of. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that offer. I appreciate that. Is there anybody interested to take on the treasurer role?
Hi, Leah, for the record here. I'm not going to say I'm interested and thrilled about it, but I would be happy to. I will gladly take on the role as treasurer, just because, like Stephanie said, it does make sense for us to have someone in Story County. I have a relationship already with Jennifer in my role in Virginia City and Story County. So, yes, I will. I'm still going to say on the record I'm not interested, but I'll do it.
Mihaela, is she allowed to do that? Can she caveat that? She should express great interest, I think, and enthusiasm. Okay. So Stephanie's interested in being the secretary. Leah will, but isn't interested, but will be the be considered for the treasurer role. And then we have vice chair and chair to discuss as well.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to vacate my position if Michelle is chomping at the bit.
Is she chomping? I can't see.
She says she is not. So I'm happy to continue in that role
okay.
if you're happy, if you're willing to continue in your role as chair.
Sure. I'm interested and happy to still do that. So thank you, thank you for that, Clay. Okay. So Clay will continue, or the proposed Clay is offering to continue as the vice chair. I will offer to continue as the chair. So we have 4 potential people on these 4 roles. So, Michaela, would it be appropriate for somebody to make a motion then at this time?
Yes, that's how it should go. Somebody should make a motion. For the record, we have 4, you know, interests in those positions,
Okay.
but now there has to be a motion and a second in order for them to be appointed in these positions. Or elected, I
Okay,
should say.
that sounds good.
Okay, this is Michelle.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Michelle Schmitter. Since I'm not a candidate, I should be making the motion here. So I move that we reelect Dave as the president,
The chairperson.
a chairperson, and Clay, I was going to say Clint, thank you. Clay as the vice president, Leah as the treasurer, and Stephanie as the secretary.
Very good. I'll second that motion.
Thank you for, okay, thank you for that. And just to clarify, vice chair for Clay, right? Just
did
to
I
be
say?
clear as the way it was agendized.
Okay,
You said vice president.
Vice
Yeah.
chair. Clay as
Easy.
vice chair.
Vice chair. He will get there eventually to vice president. But, okay, no, that sounds great. So thank you for the motion. Clay, thank you for the second. Any further discussion on agenda item 6? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Clay. And thank you, of course, Stephanie, for taking on this new secretary role. This is great, you guys. I really appreciate it. So thank you. All right. And then do we need to clarify, Michaela, my apologies, in that motion, should that motion reflect that these will expire, the new terms expire July 1st, 2025, or is it okay because it was in the staff summary? Sorry.
It's already
For not asking that earlier.
yeah, in the agenda, and per statute, these positions expire
Okay.
on July
years.
1st of every odd year.
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 7.
Dave?
For possible action, discussion of possible action regarding, yes, sorry. Yes.
This is Michelle. Is it possible to move item
Yes.
10 up? Because our representative from Sierra Nevada Construction has a time constraint.
Yes, if Jennifer is okay on her end, timing-wise.
This is Jennifer. I'm good with that.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so thank you, Jennifer. So we'll go ahead and take number 10 right now. So agenda item 10 for possible action, discussion of possible action regarding a determination that Sierra Nevada Construction Incorporated is the lowest responsive bidder pursuant to Nevada revised statutes, NRS chapter 338, and whether to award contract number FY23-C005 to SNC to repair potholes and resurface the Eastgate Station parking area and the Eastgate Siding Road project for a total amount not to exceed total $206,857.35 through December 31st, 2023. So just as a reminder, this is, we've obviously talked about this. We put the bid out. So the project includes resurfacing of the Eastgate Station parking area and the Eastgate Siding Road from the parking area to Flint Drive. And the way we have this set up, the not to exceed amount of $206,857.35, it's based on the base amount, which is $168,157 for the Eastgate Siding Road, with an additive amount of $28,850 for the Eastgate Siding. and that total amount is $197,007. And then there's also a 5% contingency of $9,850.35. So that's how we get to that 206 in change. So we, just to clarify, we did only receive the one bid on this. I do have some notes, and you'll have to forgive me, from Ken Dorr. For the life of me, where did I put my notes? Okay, sorry for that. So the bid prices, they did come in higher than estimated and higher than expected earlier in the year. Ken says due to the heavy winter and a lot of paving repair work going on this summer. He also suspects there was a higher mobilization bid amount that have been due in part from the SMC side. And then note, he says that our cap seal includes a chip seal with a slurry seal topping, and not all paving contractors, he told me, are set up with chip seal equipment anymore. And the one thing that I did want to make mention of is on the unit price for the Cape Seal on the base bid, the main parking area is at $1.61 per square foot. The additive is only 50 cents per square foot. So I'm throwing that out there for everybody, understanding, obviously, I think it might be in our best interest to look at doing all of this just because of that significantly reduced square foot price for the additive piece. So with that, I'll be quiet. And I know you said the SMC folks are in the room, so please, if they wish to come up and.
Yeah, my name is Kent Hanford. Today I'm sitting in for Ken Dorr. Ken and I have worked together on the project for many years. I've always performed a lot of the construction management and all the annual inspections for the bridge and all the civil improvements along the track. So Ken couldn't make it today. I'd helped him prepare the estimate that he did put out to bid. And so I'm here to answer any questions as best I can. I believe Ken's prepared. I know you had discussions with David regarding the bid, the results, and the recommendation for award. But if there's anything else I can address, I'm here to do so.
Thank you, Kent. Does anyone have any questions for Kent, or any questions regarding the materials that were in the packet?
This is Michelle Schmitter. I do have a question. In terms of project management for this, are you going to be our project manager?
Yes, I will be.
Okay, perfect.
David, this is Stephanie. I guess my one question that I have is, understanding that prices are higher now than they have ever been before. We've budgeted a particular amount for this project, and I think even the preliminary, without the additive, it goes a little bit over that. So I guess maybe just some discussion about, I would certainly love to see it all done. I think it's a great opportunity to do it. I think the additive is at a good discounted price, but I guess that's my concern is, are we able to do it?
Excellent question, Stephanie. This is Dave Peterson for the record. What I would like to throw out there is the possibility of shifting some dollars, because you're right, there's $150,000 that's coming from the CTA next month, and then we pulled over, you're right, another 10 into the CIP, so we only have 160 of the total cost. My thought is perhaps we could talk through Clay with the Story County folks if they are able to cover some of our operational related costs, maybe track maintenance and things that we share, over the course of the length of the track. Perhaps that could free up some of the money that we have in our budget, enabling us to do the full spend amount, if that makes sense. And Clay, if you don't mind kind of jumping in on that front, but I think maybe we have the ability to shift some dollars with some support with those additional sales tax dollars that Clay previously mentioned that can be used for the operational side of things, not, of course, for infrastructure development in Carson City, but for the operational side, maybe we can shift the dollars around to be able to accomplish the full repaving project.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, and certainly I can't speak unilaterally for our commission, but I'm happy to advocate for something along those lines. As I understand it, the enabling legislation appropriately is fairly clear on the fact that the tax dollars raised within one jurisdiction or the other should be apportioned based on benefit to that jurisdiction. And that's a little loose, but it's certainly, I think, it would raise some concern if we were to use Story County tax dollars for capital improvements in Carson City. Whereas something like track maintenance or something else that's a little more system-wide, I think there's a pretty good case to be made. Year in and year out, that sales tax generates in excess of what the commission actually uses for support from it, and so there is a surplus, if you will, or some money saved up there. But we would have to take it to the Story County Commission and ask for that. And I believe, Mahela, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the process that's laid out, that we outline specific projects or needs, and then we approach the local government for a disbursement or a reimbursement, however that works,
That is correct.
of those funds. So that's certainly something that's on the table. Like I said, I can't obligate the other commissioners, but I'm happy to advocate for that as a solution, and I feel fairly confident that it's something that we can work out.
Thank you, Clay. Stephanie, do you feel okay, with that suggested potential course of action?
I think the process sounds good. I guess what my concern is whether we can actually, approve to move forward without having that confirmation first. So it's kind of chicken or the egg, unless there's a suggestion about another bucket of money to take it from. But
Well, if I may, I mean,
Gotcha.
we're to some extent we're trying to hit a moving target on the budget anyway. I anticipate that we'll have some substantial differences between what we outlined and what actually happens this coming fiscal year, and so my thought or my assumption is that there will be some line items that'll be significantly less than we had anticipated, and others that may be more. We'll likely have to do some transfers and things like that. Do we at this point need to identify something specific? I don't know if that's a requirement or not. But I think I feel a little more comfortable when I look at it from that perspective. For example, I think we have a vastly changing situation with professional services, and that's a fairly substantial part of our budget. And so it feels to me like we should be able to move things around, even if we're not able to get this done on this side, but something that we can work on well before the end of the fiscal year, so we have very clear answers of whether this additional funding can come in or whether it's something we need to handle internally. The other question that I had, and not to, if it's all right to switch gears just a little bit, just has to do with
Sure.
disposition of the right of way. Are we the sole user? Are there other users that
And
benefit?
this is Miguel Aniagos for the record. This agenda item is basically to make a determination that SNC is the lowest responsible bidder and whether to award the contract to them. So I would advise you to keep the conversation on to that item specifically and to the motion that was proposed to award one of the two options. Of course, if you feel like you don't have sufficient information at this point based on the budget, the item can also be tabled and brought back later. And maybe some questions for the presenter would be whether SNC would be fine with this option of bringing it back next month.
This is Jennifer McCain. Can I make a comment?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
I think it's really important for the board to remember that this budget, especially this current year, which I expect it to be fairly the same next year, is extremely tight. And the transfers that were done to make the budget whole was pretty much a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Relying on unanticipated revenue that was requested coming from Story County, I think it's important to note that, as well as Carson City, those budgets are completed. So that's going to be not necessarily a 100% answer for you. I do think it would be in your best interest to table this and let's review the budget and see where we can cut some costs and get those transfers in order before moving forward, so that when the time comes to spend the money, such as professional services, we know that there's less there.
Okay, Jennifer, this is Dave. Okay, and could we also, though, I know I heard professional services, but we could look at other components too, right? And see if there's any potential savings or, that we might see over the course of the fiscal year, right? We can operate outside of just looking at the professional services, if there might be marketing money or whatever, where there might be some additional dollars.
Correct. I just use professional services as an example. I know things are changing within the VNT quite a bit, so it would just behoove you to look at your overall budget and make sure that there are places where you can trim and move to capital outlay.
Okay. Kent, not to put you on the spot, because I know, unless I'm wrong, I don't think there's an actual Sierra Nevada construction person there. Is it something where we can go back to them and explain to them that we're trying to find the full dollar amount properly, appropriately, and we would come back at the July meeting and then make the decision? Is it possible to reach out to the SNC people and make sure that that is not going to be an issue then with respect to their bid?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can reach out to them and just let them know. And they are aware, what we're working on and what you're all working towards. So the only concern, and again, the price is going to hold. The bid amount that they presented, it won't change for 60 days for certain. I don't foresee it changing this season. I think the main constraint that we're going to work with is simply getting the work scheduled. We're kind of late in the season right now. If we push it back a month, it's going to be a little more difficult. I would expect them, though, to make every effort possible to get it on their schedule, even if we do come back in a month, to make that determination. So at this point, it sounds like speaking to the contractors' standpoint, I believe that they're going to be more than amenable to push this back a month. We'll keep the communication open between them so they're well aware of our intent. And you would have the ability to come back in a month, and most likely they would be able to fit that into their schedule to get that work done this year. And I'll throw the caveat in there that every contractor does, it's always weather dependent. So,
Yeah. But can I throw another maybe wrinkle in
Okay.
the mix, and what if it doesn't sound like they're going to be moving equipment anytime soon, right? I'm sure they're busy, and so because we have options here, there are several different options presented by Ken, and one is to award the base bid only. The other two is award the base bid plus the additive bid. We are fairly close to having budgeted the base bid amount. It's much closer than the additive. And I'm just kind of playing a what if we were to award the base bid and to continue consideration on the additive. Do we think that may work for them, that they're far enough out that they're not going to be inconvenienced or not mobilizing equipment because it's really, if we bring it back next month, that still gives them plenty of time to include the additive services into what's going on?
all I'd say is it may, and I don't know that even an S&C representative can tell you that answer.
Understood.
Working on another project that they're currently involved in, the Cape Seal, Surrey Seal product is something that they don't schedule until very, very late in the process. They're constantly just moving projects around to fit them together as best they can. So that is an option. I don't think you would get a very definite response from them if we took that approach of awarding the base with the hope that we could, include the additive. I don't know that there's any benefit to that versus coming back next month to consider a full award if that's what you would like to do.
Okay, thank
Hope I
you.
answered
That's
that.
helpful. Yeah, that's helpful.
This is Michelle Schmitter for the record. Are we currently in their schedule?
We are not.
Okay.
No, until we have a signed agreement,
Okay.
we would not be put on the schedule.
And we would be looking at pushing this out more into the fall, correct?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
yes.
May I ask a question,
Yes, Dave, you have permission to ask a question. Go ahead.
please? Thank you. If we push this out to the fall, I'm just wondering, is there a gap? This is probably for Allison, but is there a gap in the schedule that might make this work a bit easier, right, in terms of when the trains are actually running? Because I know that's a pending question from Ken. Is the schedule, right, when the trains are running, to block out X number of days, I think, to get the work done? Or if there was a weekend where we don't have the trains running, right, where it could go over the course of the weekend into the next week, is there something on the calendar that might make that work to their advantage, our advantage?
This is Allison Bolton. So as the schedule as submitted, our final run is Sunday, October 22nd. And then no trains are actually scheduled until mid-November. So it's probably just under a month between end of general season and the launch of Polar.
Okay.
I do think, I'm
And
not.
Can this work be, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I am not well versed in construction, but I would say that weather would be the concern there. As an event planner, looking at late October is questionable. I don't know how that impacts
Yeah,
construction.
Sure.
Yeah, this is Ken Hanford. I'd agree with that. If we're that far out, weather could definitely be a concern. I think, though, if I understand correctly, the trains are running on the weekends, but they're not running trains during the week. So in all likelihood, this work is going to be performed during the week. It's something that should be done within 4 days' time. So it's, to me, entirely possible that the work could be done in between the train's operation with absolutely no problem, no inconvenience. But it will likely.
No, that's perfect. Okay. Okay, that's great.
And it'll likely occur again. So we're talking right now, really the work would probably occur sometime in early fall. If we push it back a month, it's probably still going to occur in fall, but more early October, late September, somewhere in there. And it's
Okay.
it's very fluid.
Okay.
So the work, they could find a hole in their schedule a week after we say go, and they may be down here. But I would expect it to be kind of early fall.
Okay. Thank you for that, Kent. I appreciate that understanding. So, commissioners, are you guys okay with the the idea of tabling this today? We take a look at the budget to be able to maybe come back and hopefully do all of the work in one fell swoop.
Yeah, for the record, this is Clay. Given that it sounds like there's little practical implications of on the construction side of delaying until we have more clarity on the budgetary side, I would move that we continue this item to our next regular meeting to be held. Do we need that date specific? Just to be clean, let's do that.
Sure.
Which is
It would
anticipated
be
to be
the
held
26th.
July 26th here at the Carson City Council Chambers.
Okay. So that is Clay. I only caught the second half of that. You made a motion there to kind of table and then move it forward?
That is correct. To continue it to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you for that motion, Clay. Do I have a second on that?
I second.
Thank you. Was that you, Michelle?
It was Leah.
Oh, Leah. Okay, sorry, Leah. Okay. Thank you, Leah. So we have motion and second. Any further discussion then about bringing the item back next month?
This is Stephanie. I
Okay,
appreciate that
course, go ahead.
consideration. I think I feel a lot more comfortable about that, especially knowing that, our budget out for next fiscal was really tight. And I think that gives us a chance to finalize this fiscal year and come up with some creative options, and
Yeah.
perhaps even get to Story County to make a request. So that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think this is a great go-between solution. So, and it sounds like even with the month delay, we can still possibly get the work done before the end of September. So I think that's the critical mass to not let it go another winter where we're going to have 4x4s to get through the potholes up there, right? So, okay. Any further discussion on this proposed motion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. So thank you. Kent, thank you for being there. I'm sorry that we will have to come back next month to get this baby finalized, but thank you for being there and addressing the commission's questions.
Yeah, you're welcome. I will plan on being here next month as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you so much. All right, so let's go back then to agenda item 7, and we'll pick up there for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the V&T statement of accounts payable checks paid May 1st through 31st, 2023. The V&T Commission in your packet, you have the invoice listing for accounts payable checks totaling $48,051.11, again, for the month of May. Stephanie, do you have any comments on this item?
I do not, but I'm available for any questions.
Okay, perfect. Any questions from the commission? Okay, if anybody wants to make a motion, this item, that would be super.
This is Stephanie. I move to approve the payable checks paid May 1st through 31st, 2023.
Thank you for that motion, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
This is Michelle, second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on agenda item 7? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. All right, let's go ahead and move on to agenda item 8 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding the adjusted V&T fiscal year 2022-2023 budget reports for the period ending May 31st, 2023. So you've got the comparative statement of adjusted revenue totaling $1,232,302.86, with expenses totaling $1,141,623.33 in your packet. Stephanie, I don't know if you want to add anything on this one or not.
Allison was going to provide some comments.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Oh, great. Okay, go ahead, Allison. Thank you.
Yep, Allison Bolton for the record. So Leah St. Marie with our team, as well as Jennifer McCain, worked very hard the last few weeks trying to get our 2 sets of books to match. I do believe that we are very close at this point. If there are discrepancies, they are small, and the 2 of them are still, trying to identify where those are. The 3 pieces of revenue, I should mention, that are missing at this point is we do have the 65 from Carson City that will be coming in, the 250,000 from Story County. We have requested that. We haven't received a check yet. And then we are outstanding on the Draco property of around $45,000. We did send another reminder when he hit the past due amount for the month of June. We have not received a response since the month of February. So those are the 3 revenue items that are tight. And then, as we're getting to the end of fiscal here, the ticket sales, as I've been mentioning, they are going to be very close. So we don't have the bank statements for June yet to do the reconciliation for the June revenue. But June, looking at the ticketing system, it does look like, for example, Father's Day, we had 2 full trains. So I do think we're going to be very, very close to what was projected in our revenue for that line item. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
That's great. Thank you, Allison. Could I just address the 65,000 coming from my board with the CTA? So we processed that last week, so the check will be issued this Friday. So I anticipate that $65,000 will be received in the mail by us next week. So will that be, Jennifer, maybe this is a question for you, will that, I know it's after the fiscal year has ended, but will that check, that $65,000 be able to be put back into fiscal 23?
Sorry, this is Jennifer McCain for the record. We have a couple days leeway where we can definitely post those deposits into the previous year, or post that we're expecting it.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah. I mean, I can assure you the check will cut this Friday by virtue of it being processed last Thursday through the Tyler system. So that's great. And I know you guys are probably, Jennifer, you're probably working on the 250 to get that figured out. But I don't know what to do or say about the Draco. My guess, you guys, is we're probably not going to receive that payment before the cutoff for fiscal 23. So I guess that money will end up, when we do get that from Mr. Street, I guess that will go into next fiscal year. If that makes sense. I mean, I know it's supposed to be recognized and recorded in fiscal 23, but if the fiscal year is closed and we take the receipt of the money afterwards, then there's really nothing that we can do about that, unless I'm wrong. So please, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that 45 is probably going to be a next fiscal year budget.
Yeah, depending on when it comes, that decision will have to be made. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. If it comes on Friday, we can make those adjustments.
Okay.
Unfortunately, if it doesn't arrive until August, then that's where we're stuck.
Yeah.
I did just
Okay.
email our accounts payable to see if they received the request for the 250, and she's going to be closing out today. So I'll make sure that that check is also cut from Story County on Friday.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for that, Jennifer. That's excellent. Super. Okay. Are there any other questions for Allison or Jennifer on our comparative statement for May?
So this is Clay, not to get too in the weeds, but it looks like a kind of an overall on the revenue side where we're coming up short is on rail bikes because they're not operating basically, a little bit on rents and a few other things, but otherwise we're well kind of within the range of where we'd expect it to be, give or take. Sounds like.
I think so, Clay. I think that's a fair assessment.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other thing I wasn't sure, what is the rent? It says we're 6,000 short, but I don't know what that is, unless I'm looking at the
this is Allison Bolton. The rents GL is allocated for the 500 that we get back from VTRR for the 18. That's what's allocated in rents.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Yes, you're right. And there'll be some more coming in June. So that will end up being a bit higher by the time we end up closing. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, we just processed the first batch of them, and then we'll have the second batch for the second half of June. The other thing, I mean, small things, but sale of goods versus sale of goods for PEX, majority of that should be in sale of goods for PEX. The only sale of goods that we had was floral at Mother's Day, and it was probably $100. So you can see that the merch this year for the store did significantly well.
Yeah. No, I agree. Are we working on a JV then to move all but that $100 from 36,700 000 to 36,700-232 then, just to true that up?
Yeah, it's an example of some of the edits that we're working with Jennifer on to clean things up.
Oh, great. Okay. That's wonderful. All right. Okay. Well, I appreciate, thank you for everyone's input on this, and thank you for your hard work to get us to the end here come Friday. So this is super. Does anybody want to make a motion on the comparative statement for May?
This is Stephanie. I move to approve the budget report for the period ended May 31st, 2023.
Thank you for that motion, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
This is Leah, and I second.
Thank you, Leah. So we've got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion on agenda item number 8? Great. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Great. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you, everybody, again, for your work on getting us to the end here. So speaking of getting to the end of the fiscal year, we will move on to agenda item number 9 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the transfer of appropriations within the V&T Railway Commission budget for FY 22-23 pursuant to NRS 354.598005. Jennifer, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to turn this one over to you.
Okay, Jennifer McCain for the record. As I think is submitted in your packet, these transfers will have a $0 effect on your overall expense portion of your budget. That's my preferable way to do it, is because it shows taxation that you didn't rely on unanticipated revenue, which, however, from where I'm sitting, your revenue, not knowing June, is very tight, even knowing the Story County and Carson City payments are coming in. Therefore, I felt the transfers were the best option. We had a surplus of money in advertising which was moved to a couple different areas. One was 55,000 was moved to professional services. Your royalties had some extra money and that was moved to the engine 18 repair. We needed additional funds in the train service line item of the budgets, and that was 25,000. Kind of losing my place. Sorry, I'm going off of paper and my computer. So that 25,000 came from advertising and track maintenance. And then we had no usage of your capital outlay funds of $50,000. So we transferred 49,000 into utilities, casual labor for Polar, train service, and merchandise for Polar. That is a total transfer of $142,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure what else you want to know.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions on the proposed transfers, the 142,000 for Jennifer?
I'll also note that I worked with Leah and Allison getting estimates of what the expenses will be through the end of June. So that was taken into account with these transfers.
Thank you.
This is Stephanie. I just wanted to
Any
thank
questions?
Jennifer
Go
and
ahead.
Leah and Allison for all your hard work on this. I know there was a lot of back and forth and, a lot of effort put in to make everything match. So thank you. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Yeah, thank you very, very much. Excellent. If there's no additional questions, if someone would like to make a motion, that would be super.
This is Stephanie.
Or not.
This is Stephanie. I move to approve transfer of appropriations between funds or contingency accounts for fiscal year 2022 through 2023 pursuant to NRS 354.598005.
This is
Thank you
Michelle.
for
I
that motion,
second the
Stephanie. Do I have
motion.
a second? Great. Thank you, Michelle, for that second. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on agenda item number 9? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The great motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you again, Jennifer, Allison, Leah, Stephanie. Thank you all
Thank you very
for
much.
making this
If you don't need me for
happen.
anything
Yeah.
else, I'm going to jump out.
No, that sounds great, Jennifer. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, take care and goodbye. So let's move on to agenda item number 11 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the request for proposals, RFP 2023-003 for an executive assistant that was closed on June 15, 2023, and no responses to the RFP were received. And we're looking for some additional direction, guidance to the staff on this one. So unfortunately, you guys, RFP went out the door. No responses were received at all. And we do have a couple of options, and Mahela, I might have you jump in on the second option. The first one, of course, we could decide to put this back out to bid and, change dates and take another, month or month and a half, to put this out to bid. But we do have another option in light of the fact that we did go through a formal RFP process and we did not receive any bids. And Mahela, would you mind just explaining, the whole newspaper thing, where we could then try and just reach out to potential people? Would you mind addressing that option? Because it will apply to number 12 as well, but I thought, okay, thank you.
And this is Mahela Niagos for the record. I think, and just to explain it a little bit, I think there's a little bit of a difference between the two RFPs, given the amount. One of them is over 100,000, and the other one is under. It's between 50 and 100,000. So for the one that is 50 to 100,000, we can do a permissive solicitation, and this is the way we went by advertising. But this is something that was decided, you know, to pursue, and obviously we received no interest. So one option would be to publish that we failed to receive responsible responses, and that is pursuant to NRS 332.148. And 7 days after it is the notice is published, we can reach out to obtain solicitations informally. The process would apply for both of them, but I just wanted to make it clear that if the amount is between 50 and 100,000, it is permissible to advertise. It wasn't mandatory, but we did it. Yeah. But we're faced with the same situation on both cases where you have the option to post a notice that no responses were received and reach out to anyone that you consider that may be interested. And I believe that there are a few options out there. David, does that answer your question?
That's perfect, Mihaela. Yeah. Are there for my peers though, does anybody have any questions for Mihaela just about the alternate option, you know, versus trying to go back out to bid? Are there any questions about this other avenue that we can pursue, you know, pending, like Mihaela said, put it in the newspaper, you know, let 7 days pass. Just want to make sure everybody understands that option.
This is Michelle Schmitter. What does that mean, I guess? That we would recommend people that we know? Or?
Exactly.
Okay. Would we post it in the newspaper then? I mean, in Indeed, you know, on the job sites?
I actually had a suggestion that while it's not a city's position, we could certainly post it on our website with our other positions. We're doing that currently for the League of Cities. And so we could just, as you know, where people come commonly looking for employment opportunities, we could post that this is a position and spell out the differences on it, but at least it's a venue for that.
Yeah.
That's great, Stephanie. That would, if you, if we want to go in that direction, that's wonderful. Does that answer your question, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, good. So how do you guys feel? You know, is there a particular approach you'd like to take on this?
I mean, this is Clay. I'll tell you where I'm at. I don't feel like going back out, reposting, republishing the RFP really moves us in the direction that we need to go. Especially considering that it was permissive, but it was not a requirement for this particular thing the last time. And so I think we've done our due diligence from that perspective. I think the compelling need at this point is to get the help that we need lined up so that we can make the changes and kind of get things resolved within operations at the commission. So I'm in favor of publishing the notice and then using whatever proper means necessary to see what we can get, who we can get that could help us with this. And am I correct?
Clay,
I'm sorry, Dave. I was just going to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Am I correct in assuming that you know that whatever the result of that search then would come back to us for approval of a contract or something along those lines through a normal process?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I would insist on that. Yeah, that we come back if we could identify somebody. Yes, that we bring that subsequent contract back to the full commission. And I personally, just speaking for myself, I'm with you. I feel like if we put this back out to bid, there's not a lot other than changing the dates. What else can we really change? And to expect that somebody somehow would respond, I think it's a 1% chance, right, to go through all that work. So I would be in favor of your suggested course of action, just speaking for myself. Michelle, Leah, Stephanie, how do you all feel?
I agree. I'm not going to restate everything that's just been said, but I do agree, yes.
Okay.
This is Stephanie. I agree also. Yeah, we just got to get it out there in another
Okay.
way and tell our friends, people we know.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So if that's the case, so Mihaela, from just guidance on a motion, is how would we? What is the motion then, to do the newspaper advertisement and then wait for the 7 days to engage, or how? What does the motion look like, if that's the direction we want to go?
And for clarification, pursuant to that statute, the governing body or its authorized representative shall entertain any response which is submitted after it publishes the notice and before the expiration of the waiting period. So we're going to publish that. If somebody reaches out to us because they found it in the newspaper that they missed their deadline, you are allowed to accept those, even if it's within those 7 days.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
David, so basically the
Yeah.
motion would be, I move to
Yes.
not republish the bid and move forward with
Publishing a notice.
publishing the notice.
Okay. All right. Clay, do you want to? It sounds like you started on a motion. Do you want to throw something out there for the group?
No, I'm totally happy to do that. I was gonna see if Michelle had any other discussion that she wanted to bring into it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you, Michelle. My apologies. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Probably this discussion will come next month when we see the response. I'm just wondering what our plan is for the future.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and my take on it is there'll still be challenges because it's not the same as a job offer, right? It's still a contract position with requirements and so on and so forth. But certainly, kind of takes one of the hoops that they have to jump through, becomes yeah, it's out of the equation, and makes it a little more smooth to have them submit or express interest. So. I think we'd still use the RFP as kind of our guidance, right, in what we're looking for, and then we can empower the chair to negotiate specifics on a contract or something along those lines, to bring back to us for approval.
Okay. And is it possible to contract with another state agency or county agency, or is that within the statute of the law?
So, yeah, I don't think it's illegal from a perspective of it could be done with an intergovernmental agreement. We've looked at that as a possibility, and there are some stumbling blocks on both of the local jurisdictions that are involved here, and those range from the fact that we just closed out a budget for the next year and creating a position nested within the organization would have to be budgeted for, even if we're reimbursing it. And having not done that, it's not really, we talked about it beforehand, to try to see if there was a way to leave that door open. Some of the other challenges are just political, that there's not necessarily the will to step out that far to help the commission, in some cases. And so that's certainly been part of the conversation as we look at how do we fill the needs that we have. It's not off the table. I don't see it as an easy route. So it's something we can continue to explore.
I'm just wondering because it's done with certain grants. I mean, you don't always know you're going to get a grant, but you have a large grant and now you need somebody to manage it. So, I mean, I would have to ask you all because I would just be, I mean, I've just seen this posted a lot. So Is that a possibility to treat it that same way? So it's a time-limited position?
Speaking for Carson, at this point, there's not an appetite to do that through the city.
Yeah, and in conversation with staff in Story County, certainly there is an openness to helping tasks with task-specific items, but not necessarily to create a position. And so there's an openness to look at what are the immediate needs, and are there ways that we can augment those into because we're already using Story County for some services. Is there a way to just bump that out a little bit to cover some of the other essential things that we need to get done with existing staff? So that's on the table for sure. I don't think that gets us to where we need to be as far as someone to really run our stuff. But it's in the mix. It's something that can be brought as part of this, and especially if someone expresses an interest, says, look, these are the things I can do, these are the things I can't do. That's certainly something that we can pull in and say, well, this person will handle this stuff. Maybe the contract amount is less, but then we have resources to cover the other things that we need. That's all on the table. All can be brought before us for consideration. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, we're looking at all of it, but we don't have any definite answers on a lot of this stuff. So.
This is Stephanie. I just wanted to add a question on if the commission's interested in, after the notice period, posting it, through Carson City's employee opportunity or employment opportunity website. Should we just request, a resume, or because again, I think the whole RFP process might be intimidating to an individual. So I guess what would we want to request the response to be from the person? And I don't know if I need a motion for that or just as part of the discussion. Is that okay, Mihaela?
I think it's part of the further direction to staff.
Okay.
So it's covered.
Yeah, well, and I've been thinking a little bit about it because if I remember correctly, there's some insurance requirements and some other things that are a little beyond. Now, that doesn't mean they have to already have that. Something that can be kind of, contingencies within the contract of getting those lined up. But yeah, I mean, I think setting the bar as low as possible for someone who's interested and has relevant experience to open a conversation, which then can happen with staff, and we can kind of chart a specific course on what would need to take place for that to be able to move forward. I think, a resume is a decent place to start. And then it does shift a little bit more work on to us as far as vetting and making the expectations clear, right? Because an employee relationship is a different animal than what would happen here. So, whatever we post to whatever sources has to be clear that there are requirements above and beyond a normal employment agreement or employment arrangement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone has to have that all buttoned up right up front. That's something that could be, as part of getting the contract in place.
Am I allowed to comment? Yeah. Allison Bolton. So having gone through the RFP process several times in the last 10 years, it's a rigorous process, especially when you have staff and, there's no money coming in when you're doing these RFPs. Some of them take up to 40 hours just to get them done, and then understanding the legal language within the RFP, and it doesn't necessarily spell out the requirements as an employee would be looking at a job posting of like, this is what's required. So I echo what Clay said in that spelling it out a little bit more definite of these are the requirements for the position, business license, insurance, all of those things. And then a resume and cover letter probably, which in the cover letter they can address how they would reach the requirements if they don't already have those. I do think that you open the pool up significantly more, again, because looking at the RFP process is a daunting process. And knowing that if you just miss one section, your RFP is thrown out, and that alone is a barrier to entry. So that's just my 2 cents.
Great suggestions, you guys. I would just add one thing, if I may. Is it possible? I'm trying to think of Stephanie, how the system works, that NeoGov system that the city has. But I'm wondering, maybe we could have some supplemental questions, and I'm not sure if that's the right word or not, but that would help, maybe, to ensure that folks understand what is entailed with taking this whole role on. I don't know if there's a way to do that on the front end.
I can take a look at it. I know in our regular applications, we have supplemental questions. I just don't know if we're not actually going to have someone fill out the job application, how that will show up, but I can certainly look into that. Or it
right.
might be, maybe they can just
Okay.
contact us for some additional questions if they're interested. That might be just an easy way to do it.
Sure. Yeah. I'm with you guys, as making it as easy as possible, especially in light of Allison's comments. So, okay. All right. So back to moving us forward on this. Mihaela, I know originally we talked about, we're not going to republish an RFP with new dates. We're just going to, go with the newspaper thing in the 7 days. But now we've had some discussion about the specifics of collecting people's either resumes or questions from them. Do we need an all-encompassing motion here then? Not to republish, but to do the newspaper, wait the 7 days, and then here's a suggested course of action after those 7 days. Do we need all of
think
that
as
motion?
discussed on the record is sufficient.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
All right.
may I make a suggestion? I don't.
Yes.
I kind of chuckle when I see
sure.
when I see the phrase "to direct staff," because we don't have any. But so we're directing ourselves.
Hence the problem.
Really, yeah,
Right.
on what to
Good.
do. But what I might suggest is, and I don't necessarily feel like I have any special qualifications in this regard, but since Leah and I were kind of tasked with review of the non-existent submittals to this RFP, maybe she and I can take a look at the RFP and see what we can do to reorganize or use it as a template to see if we can come up with something that roughly approximates a job posting that includes the necessary information. Then we can float it around and get it to a workable state, and then distribute.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, Clay and Leah, that'd be great. I think that's lovely. Thank you for offering that.
No problem. Doing it all my free time.
All right. Okay. Yes. Well, that's what your nights and weekends are for.
I work nights and weekends,
Okay.
Dave.
Well, okay. So, how about your early mornings?
Yeah, I just.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm happy to make a motion in that regard. This is Clay. I will move to not republish the RFP. I will move to that the commission publish a notice pursuant to NRS 332.148, and I further move to instruct the commission to move forward as discussed previously on the record.
Thank you for that motion, Clay. Do I have a second?
This is Stephanie. I second.
Pretty quick on that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Leah, for picking this up, taking it, and getting us moving forward. So we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 12 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding request for proposal RFP number 2023-004 for the Polar Express theater production services that closed on June 15, 2023. Again, no responses were received to this particular RFP. So same situation here as we just discussed with the executive assistant RFP. But I would add is I received an email. So I have been trying my darndest to get the word out before this RFP closed through the Nevada Arts Council, using Deborah on the CTA team to reach out to the different theatrical groups in and around Carson City. And the issue continues to be similar to what we ran into last year, which Allison is, will probably remember. It's so different, right? If we just don't have one weekend, like where somebody's putting on play, or something on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday matinee. It's over the course of many weeks. It's at night. It's many performances over the course of those several weeks, and that same concern issue was brought to my attention when I personally have engaged with folks on my end. I did reach out to Rail Events to see if Ed Zicki could help at all. He emailed me yesterday. I didn't see this email, unfortunately, but I'm looking at it right now. He said, unfortunately, this is Ed, a quote, unfortunately, we have not found a production company as of yet that is interested in the RFP. So, again, I've tried everything I can to bring light to, our need and this RFP. But no response is received, and unfortunately, on the Rail Events end of things, they have not been able to find anyone as well. So,
Can I, Dave? This is Clay. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
If do we feel, and I'm happy for anyone who may have input on this, do we feel that moving outside of an RFP process would have the same or similar potential for increasing engagement or interest for something like this versus the executive assistant? Because it feels like the executive assistant's a little more all-purpose general type of, where there's likely a broad pool of people who may have the skills necessary. This feels very specialized in a much bigger chunk. And I don't, not that going back out to RFP is any better, but I'm wondering if potential solutions, we need to look more broadly, including restructuring what we do, potentially look at alternatives to Polar, that kind of thing, as opposed to just saying, well, if we make it, so you don't have to do the proposal, we think that that's going to get us the response that we're looking for. Because it feels like the issues with this one are endemic. They're not going to change much whether you have to do the proposal or not.
This is Dave. I think you are right. I was thinking about this yesterday, and thinking, okay, if we put this one in the paper, give the 7 days, could we? And I'd be happy to again help, or maybe since Michelle and I were tasked with reviewing the plentiful submissions that didn't come through on this one, maybe Michelle, you and I could take this one up, not maybe in the exact same direction as what we talked about in 11, but what I was thinking, is there an opportunity for us to go maybe more directly, reach out to like a Sierra Arts Foundation on a nonprofit basis and talk with theatrical or performing arts groups? And, is there some way where it's not just one entity that we're sort of through an RFP, asking to take this whole thing on? Is there a way to grab a couple of different entities to maybe pull off DEX for us? That's the only thing I was thinking about yesterday. If we could have some direct, conversations with a couple of different organizations that as I know, do work together, right, on other types of arts and culture related programming. Just a thought, you know, and I don't know, you guys could tell me, no, that probably isn't going to resolve the situation any better than putting this back out to bid, but it was just a thought, I guess, because and the only reason I bring that up, you guys, is once the RFP releases, then we cannot engage with anybody, right? Because there's a formal question and answer process. Anyway, it was just a thought.
This is Michelle. I think that would be great. I would be interested in like a subgroup meeting on that.
Yeah. I mean, and we could do the same thing. You know, Clay and Leah are going to take up 11. We could continue, you know, our efforts on this one, perhaps.
If I may make a comment, this is Allison Bolton. One thing that, and Dave and I have discussed this, the one thing that I was thinking through is that, you know, from Direction by Rail events, this has always been heavily emphasized as a theater production, that this is a moving stage, this is theater, and so the efforts have always been heavily involved with theater. This was dropped on my plate last year due to similar circumstances, and, you know, I don't have, you know, save a few theater productions in my youth, I don't have theater background. And so the conversation was, if you remove that theater word, I mean, you're really looking at customer service representatives that serve hot chocolate with a smile. And that's how, again, how we approached it. I just wonder if the efforts were more heavily focused on event production, larger event. I mean, I'm a small company, so this is a very heavy lift and quite significantly financially difficult for us. But a larger event company that has that capacity, that can sustain the insurance and the liabilities and the staffing, to approach this as an event as opposed to a theater production. I just wonder if that would open an additional pool for this.
Great. Yeah. Allison, that's not a, I know you and I did talk about this, that's not a bad approach. But Allison, could I ask you, from your perspective, do you think not trying to rebid this, but to use the 332-148 approach to maybe where we could reach out directly then to some event production companies about this? Do you think that would be the better course of action, especially given that we're on a timeline? Because the other piece to this puzzle and equation is rail events, and hopefully by next week they're going to have a quote drop dead date. And what I mean by that is, if we don't have somebody in place to move forward with a PEX experience, then we don't have PEX, right? And they're internally they're working on getting us an actual date, right? Whatever that date may be. So just thinking of the, you know, being as expedient as possible, knowing that that date is probably coming at some point later this summer. Allison, do you think we'd be better served to go the same route as what we just did for the executive assistant, allowing us to make some direct contact with event production companies versus trying to put it back out to bid?
I think it would give you more options than to republish the RFP. A little bit more flexibility, and you know, you can create that scope based on what the conversations you're having with potential companies. I don't know, Leah Cruz works closely with a larger event production company. Like I said, I think it just needs to be a larger entity that can handle it. And the conversation of breaking it out, having done this a few years, the more chiefs you have at that track, the harder it becomes. And so I think if you can find one or two that can do it, that's the ideal, and kind of identifying the hierarchy of who's in charge. That's even a safety thing, knowing who's in charge. That would be my apprehension, to break it out even further than it is now.
Okay. So wonderful peer group. What would you like to do on this one?
This is Stephanie. I think I'm comfortable with the direction as we discussed and giving it one more month because I think the alternative is we don't do it at all. So I I feel like we've got to give it one more month, see if we can turn up some people that may be interested in it, and then have, I mean, it's likely the conversation that we have next month is going to be probably pretty close to that drop dead date, and then we'll have to make the really hard decision. So I think giving it another
Okay.
month to try is appropriate.
Okay.
And for clarification, is that,
Any other thoughts, Clay?
yeah, this is Clay. Yeah, Stephanie, just for clarification, when you say give it another month, you're not specifically talking about re-upping the RFP. You're talking about continuing efforts to try to find something.
Correct. Continuing the efforts, and I think the idea of Michelle and David going more directly, reaching out to people, I think, and doing the posting that we need to do. I think that's the way we should go.
Great. And Mr. Chairman, if that's all right, I will make a motion on this item. And that motion will be to
Please.
not
Thank you.
republish the RFP, but instead to publish a notice pursuant to NRS 332.148 and to empower Dave and Michelle to continue efforts until our next meeting to identify someone who can handle these responsibilities.
Thank you for that motion, Clay. Do I have a second?
This is Stephanie. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on agenda item 12? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, everybody on this item. We'll move on to agenda item 13 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding proposed amendment number 1 to agreement for legal services with the Carson City District Attorney's Office, extending the agreement for an additional 1-year term. So in your packet is the agreement right now. That agreement is in effect until July 27th, 2023, so next month. And what we have in front of us is to extend it for a year. And any questions, concerns, comments on this one?
This is Stephanie. I just want to thank
And is there
Mihaela for
David?
all her
Oh, yeah.
efforts this year. I think it was a great transition. I appreciate all the assistance that you provided to us, and I'm looking forward to another year.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure.
Oh, she said that on the record. That's great.
And Leah's not looking at me.
That's wonderful. I know she loves my phone calls at like 5:02 p.m. At night. That's for sure. So no, I would agree. Mihaela has been awesome. So agreed, and thank you. So anybody want to propose a motion on this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And before I do that, I just want to actually thank Carson City for being willing to do that for us. It's been helpful to have that in place as we move through some of the other transitions that we're working through. So unless someone else wants to make the motion, I don't want to.
Agreed.
Leah, do you want to make the motion or not?
Sure.
Oh, what a chivalrous man. So nice.
I move to, let's see. What are we doing? Are we on this one?
Yeah, the amendment number 1.
Approve the
Do you see
proposed
that,
amendment
Leah?
number 1 to agreement for legal services with the Carson City District Attorney's Office, extending the agreement for an additional 1-year term.
Thank
This
you
is
for that
Michelle. I
motion,
second the
Leah.
motion.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Michelle, for the second. All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on agenda item 13? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. You're in it again for another year, Mihaela. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Carson City, as well. So we will go ahead and move on to Agenda item 14 for discussion only. These are our monthly non-action items. And we will pick up 14A, operations report. Allison, do you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you. So I'm just going to do a brief update for you today. So we did transition operations over to VTRR. We've been in close contact with Candy Duncan, trying to make that as seamless and just kind of assisting her in any way to make sure that things are moving smoothly and that guests are taken care of. So they now have the phone, ticketing. I believe she's done or is doing a training with Fair Harbor. We did do the first weekend with her, and I don't want to speak for her, so I'm sure she'll come up here in a minute. I did pull numbers. We are looking at just under $150,000 in total total general season revenue, which is, we're running some full trains, which is good. Not a lot of empty trains, if you will. In terms of other items that we've been handling, very heavily in board relations as well as in the marketing. Lots of time spent with Jennifer this month with the budget, making sure not only that our fiscal 24 was looking accurate, but also making sure that fiscal 23 is going to close out accurately. As mentioned, we do keep a second set of books in Excel spreadsheet. And so it definitely is a little bit tedious kind of double checking everything and making sure that it's all matching. Working with Draco, contract logs, reconciling all the bank statements. So we did receive bank statements for March, April, and May this month. So lots of reconciliation, assisting her with the transfers, can't say augmentation here, with the transfers, and then just kind of continued coordination for making sure that a transition, again, is seamless. So we've got this document kind of formulating of here's all of our monthly services, here's all the vendor contact information, here's when you schedule this. And so it's kind of broken down into several different categories, and it's right outside of any folder, and it says start here. And so just really, again, wanting to make this smooth and easy and have all of the information in a way that is easy for the next person. What we're looking at in July is finalizing the gift card closeout, so refunding everyone that does have a gift card in the system, and then communicating with everyone that does not have a credit card in the system that has a gift card, letting them know that that's going to be going to, unclaimed property. So we're actually, after this meeting, gonna sit down and try and nail that down and get that done. We've also started writing out the records retention policy, and Leanne with our team is working at the depot to get all of those filing all squared away. And so I know we need to connect with Ken because there's a lot of engineering documents. There's like 3 different complete full filing cabinets full of engineering. And so that's one piece that we probably will need to connect with him to make sure that we are documenting those that need to be documented, and then I'm shredding anything that doesn't. I do believe that a lot of his items have been given to us digitally, which is in the box. And so just kind of identifying again what's in the paper that we need to scan in. Our marketing, so we have our marketing spend that we'll be completing at the end in the next 2 days here. We have 4 billboards. I actually drove by one just yesterday driving to a meeting. They look great. And so again, that's just an anticipated, we can't necessarily know what the impressions are. We can just kind of anticipate what that is, and it goes in fold with our other buy. We are still running on TV as well as radio. And then we had to shift our social media spend into our search and display spend. We're still having the issues with Facebook. I even had to go back to Argentum this month to see if they had any idea how to reclaim our Facebook. And just to remind you, and probably, Michelle, you're hearing this for the first time, when we came on board, there were 2 different Facebook accounts. And one was an older account that had a significantly higher audience. And then the other one was a newer account that only had about 1,500 followers. And so what we did is we transitioned everything and closed out the new one, kept the original one. But in that transition, the Meta, which is the business account, the Meta lived with the new one. And while the account was closed, the Meta account wasn't closed, and Facebook won't give me access to it. So we're now going through like a whole notary process, trying to see, this has been 2 years of me trying to reclaim our Facebook. So because of that, our main Facebook doesn't have a Meta account because it lives under a Meta account that we cannot access. And so we cannot run official ad campaigns through our Facebook channel or Instagram channel. So because of that, we had that money budgeted, and so we shifted it over to our online media search and display, which is what we call our always on, or our general branding. And so kind of the hot keywords that are the most popular are rail trip, railroad train, Virginia City train, railroad travel, and Virginia City, Nevada tours, which I thought was interesting. Our click-through rate is at a 21% click-through rate, which is significantly high. So our ad campaign's working. With that, Melissa's kind of tapping us for when are we ready to roll into the next one, you know, especially if we want to do billboards. And so I've kind of just kept her at bay right now. I wanted to make sure, see how fiscal year 23 ended, and make sure that fiscal 24, with the numbers being so tight, I'm a little bit hesitant to say, yes, here's all your money for your advertising. So I've just kind of told her, let's hang tight for a minute before we roll another campaign out. I do think that some sort of spend would be beneficial, at least to close out the general season lines. I do think it heavily impacts the ridership on the train. But again, I just don't want to go spending money if it's not there. So again, that's high level board relations marketing update, and happy to answer any questions if you have them. Unless I missed anything, Leah? Nope? Okay.
Thank you, Allison. I do have a couple questions, but I'll defer if anybody on my peers have a question for Allison.
This is Michelle for the
Okay.
record. I have a
Can
question
Oh, go ahead.
regarding the Toast of the Canyon. What's the anticipated?
So at this point in time, there wasn't really budget to do Toast of the Canyon. We submitted a grant last month to Nevada Commission on Tourism specifically for Toast of the Canyon, and it outlined not only the marketing but also the actual event facilitation of it. The responses for that grant haven't come back yet. So yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see if the funds will come in from the state.
Could I jump
Thank
in
you.
there if you don't mind? So that, oh, sorry. Can I just answer that question? So that grant from the Commission on Tourism was not approved. So we actually did not receive funding for Toast of the Canyon. Just to let everybody know.
I'm going to quickly just pull up what the estimated cost was for Toast of the Canyon.
Okay.
If I can remember where I saved it. Give me 1 second here.
And while you're looking for that, Allison, I did want to just make a couple of comments. So on Ken's materials, and I know you were talking about the paper copies, he did bring, we gave him a terabit drive, you know, one of the little plug-in play ones. And there's 80 something gigabits worth of files, digital files on that drive. I am having a problem to load those on the quote, the H drive, the city's H drive. So I've tried this twice. I am able to get 70 of the 83 gig to transfer onto the H drive to at least have a backup of those files. I have the 83 gigabits on the terabit drive. Unfortunately, it's on one of our drives that we actually use for all of our video and our photography, like our raw video files. Ken is going to try and transfer to a different type of a jump drive, like a little stick drive. And we're going to see if that will allow all of the files to transfer over. But just a heads up, I do have the 83 gig on a drive, but I need to get it off that drive because of what that drive is used for internally at Visit Carson City, right? So I am trying. And I think when Ken comes back from his trip, we're going to see if we can reload all of those files again. Fingers crossed.
And I'm wondering, David, because I have 2 drives from Ken as well, and I haven't been able to cross-reference if they are the same or if they have different information. So I think we potentially have 3 different drives from Ken right now.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
My
Okay.
internet is
So we
spinning
definitely need
here
to
a bit.
get this figured out.
Box is down.
Okay.
Well, it's not down, it's, I think, being on Carson Wi-Fi.
The Carson Wi-Fi won't let us access Box. So what I know high level with Toast is that we submitted that it would cost around $38,000. However, I believe almost half of that was for marketing, and we buffered that, knowing that we were submitting for a grant of like, okay, if we're going to do this right, we're not going to shoestring this. Like, this is what a spend should be. So I would say to do the complete series, which I believe was 4 or 5 runs, we're probably down to 3 runs at this point. You're probably looking around $15,000 to $20,000 between the staffing, the alcohol, the food, the cost of the train, et cetera.
Just a question on that. This is Dave. We built this into the budget, but with 50% coming through the grant, right?
Correct. I believe we had
Because of the match
25,000 earmarked for grant in our revenue.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm going to go back and look at that. This is Dave. Let me look at that real quick. Because I think you're right. So we basically only have the dollars, if I understand correctly, to just run the Toast of. No marketing would be behind it, right?
You could do at least one Toast with the budget as it currently
Okay.
stands. I'd be comfortable with one Toast. In terms of the revenue, I mean, if Draco comes through next fiscal, that might help your 25,000 that we allocated in grant revenue. I do have a spreadsheet that breaks
Sure.
everything down, and it has it like per run, and then and then multiplies it out. So I have a cost per run, but like just the Wi-Fi here won't let me access it. But we do have that information.
Okay. So without, counting on the Draco money, if we just look at this in isolation, and I'm afraid I don't want to try to duck off here and knock myself off, but we had a $25,000 grant. You're right. So I think so the whole project cost, we probably had 50, because 25 of that, and then we have to match the 25. So we basically, for Toast of, on the expenditure side for the fiscal 24 budget, we still could utilize some of that 25. Obviously, we don't have the other 25 coming in now, so but we could use up to that 25 or some portion of it if we do want to do some Toast.
Correct. It's allocated
I want to make sure I'm right about that.
I believe you're right. I'm pulling up the fiscal 24 budget real quick. It's under special event expenses.
Okay.
I'm almost there. 1 second. So 5, 10, 15. You have about 15,000 allocated for special event expenses. That would be inclusive of
Okay.
Mother's Day train as well, though. So that 15,000 to cover both Mother's Day and Toast. So I don't think you could do one Toast a month at that amount.
Okay. But perhaps, I'm just making a note here, perhaps we could do 2?
Potentially. And I
Maybe
mean, the
with
other
that 10?
avenue
Okay.
is finding a sponsor or seeing what you can get donated. Seeing if there's a donor that's
Sure.
willing to donate the alcohol, or a sponsor that's willing to say, Toast is sponsored by so-and-so company. 100% you can get one Toast out of what's budgeted right now.
Okay. Would you guys like to try to pull a toast off?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as this is a
Commissioners,
non-action item, I think that this has been excellent conversation. I think we can probably leave it there.
Okay. Yeah, no, fair enough. And we did budget for it, I guess, you guys, right? I mean, so you're right. I don't even think, I don't think we need to bring it back or motion. It's built into the budget.
Yep.
To do it, if we have the money. So, okay. No, fair enough. All right. Great. Are there any other questions for Allison or Leah on the operations report?
So I just want to comment quickly because operations was transitioned to VTRR. So that would be a VTRR because special events and pullers under them.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Yep. Okay. Okay, so with that, if there are no questions for Allison, I'd like to move us on to 14B, train operations report. And Tom did email me that he is in California, so he is unavailable, but I think Candy may be there to give us a quick update.
She may be coming to the microphone right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Hi, Candy.
Hi, David. How are you? This is
I'm
Candy
wonderful.
Duncan.
Wonderful. Yes.
So yes, Tom did ask me to come here today because he is out of town. So he did email to me a couple of points he wanted me to be sure and pass along to you. The first thing, as everyone's been saying, is the trains have been full, which is really great. I love seeing that. And the people are really happy, which is another thing. We love seeing that. So that part is just going great. And yes, Allison and Leah and her staff have been very generous and helpful to me in helping me understand how Fair Harbor works. And I did have a training session with them on Monday. So I do, and I also I'd been doing it anyway after Allison showed me a couple of times and Leah, and then I've been learning on my own and making a few decisions on my own that I hope you all won't mind when you see what I've done, but just trying to keep the people happy and make sure they get their tickets and make sure they're all having a great time. So that's been my main goal. One of the challenges we've had is, as I'm sure you all know, we have a lot of elderly people who ride the train, and when they get to Virginia City, and there's no shuttle bus, that's huge for them. This past Sunday, we had 2 motorized scooters and 3 wheelchairs and a couple of walkers. So that was an extreme case for us. But fortunately, there is a 6-passenger golf cart operated by the Sugarloaf Motel up in Virginia City. And they have been just wonderful. Charlie has been great meeting the trains. He comes down and takes people up as many times as he has to, and then brings them back, and he does that all for tips. And so I don't know, I think we'd have a lot more complaints if we didn't have him. So that's been really great. And just so you're aware, one of the things I had found when I was looking at the Fair Harbor ticketing is there is an option that I wasn't aware of, but am now, that if you say that you need special assistance, a pop-up comes and asks you if you have a motorized scooter, and if you do, it says, well, do you want to pay $20 to get it on the train? And unfortunately, we had that happen Sunday, and really, they can't always get on the train. It was extremely difficult. And so I asked Fair Harbor to take that off and to just say, if you need special assistance, call. So they'll call the phone that I've been answering, and I will explain to them what they need to do, coordinate it with Tom and the crew to make sure that we can accommodate that scooter. So I did take care of that issue.
Candy.
Um,
Excuse me, Michelle Schmitter for the record. I'd be interested to understand that better about how that works.
The scooter?
Mhm.
Well, the problem is getting scooters down the aisles of the train, which are very narrow. And some of the bigger ones don't fit down the aisle. The other issue is at the East Gate end of it, we have a ramp that they can just drive up the ramp to get to the train. But in Virginia City, there is not a ramp. What there is a lift. And it's a motorized lift you've got to be able to fit the passenger and the scooter onto, bring it down to the street level. And it's a lot of manipulations to do it.
What would be the solution on the train end? I
Well-
mean, would it be like a reconfiguring the car situation where they would,
Well, those cars can't be, I mean, they are relics. They are,
Right, right.
you know, they are
It's a
museum equipment. So
flat-
that is, you know, they
A new
can't,
car.
yeah. And
Okay.
so that is the major issue. A passenger has to be able to transfer out of a wheelchair or scooter and sit in an actual seat. That's an FRA regulation. You can't keep them in their scooter or wheelchair. The wheelchairs need to be foldable, portable. So there are some stipulations, and it's just better if people know about that to begin with.
Mhm.
We do have a policy among the crew that if they show up, we're not going to turn them away. We're going to figure out a way to get them on the train and get them to Virginia City. Whether that be if we can't get their scooter on the train, sometimes we've, in the past, I don't know if Allison, you guys ever did it, but we would drive somebody up with the equipment so that it would be there when the passenger got there. I mean, if they're there, we'll accommodate them in any way we possibly can. But it's also better to know in advance. Then you've got it, you're anticipating it, you're ready for it, so.
So Candy's completely right. It was also a surprise to us that that pop-up was there. And I recalled the former operations did put them into her personal vehicle and drove them up, which is why they had offered that. So it was all a mystery. We couldn't even find it in the system. I think you had to call Fair Harbor to have it removed.
Yeah, I did.
But that was the former policy. My insurance doesn't cover me to do that, to load that into my personal vehicle and take it up. So you'd be looking probably, the ideal scenario is that you have a service or a shuttle that can take them up to Virginia City and that can meet them there.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're complying with all the ADA
Right.
regulations.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Definitely.
thank you.
Uh-huh. And then the other thing that Tom mentioned, just so that you know, is that the main access road from F Street to C Street is still closed. And so that's also been a little bit of an issue, but people are figuring it out and they're getting up there. So all in all, seems to all be working out. We're making it happen. Mhm.
Thank you very much, Candy. Again, thank you for taking this on, and please thank Tom for me as well. So any other questions for Candy on her update? Okay.
All right.
Well, keep up the good work. I too am happy that we've got full trains. This is awesome. So thank you very much. Excellent. All right. With that, we will move on to 14C, Engineers Report. Mr. Ken Dorr, I know Ken is not here today. We did submit and post online late material from Ken. And unless you guys want me to go through all of this, which I'm happy to do, but if there are any questions or concerns, I can do my best to answer anything. But I'll leave it to you guys if you wish for me to talk through everything that was on his late material report.
Mr. Chairman, is there anything in his late material report that is
Yes.
questionable or concerning?
No, I would say that's not the case. I do want to, remind everybody that we have that 540-day bridge inspection, right? So I know that has to be completed by some date in May, is where the 540 days ends. I don't remember off the top of my head, unless Gabe may remember. So that would be the one thing that I just want us to be cognizant of, right? That we'll have to do that bridge inspection report. So, but I'm happy they got the ballast ordered, up top, down below. So I'm pleased with that and all the signage and everything being ordered. And I know Gabe's going to install all of that. So I'm not aware of anything else, but of course, if Gabe is there and there's something that I'm missing, feel free, Gabe, if you want to say anything.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. All right. So if there's no other concerns or questions then on Ken's report, I'll go ahead and move on to 14D, if that's okay with the group. So 14D, we have our next commission meeting, July 26th, 2023 at 9 a.m. And with that, I will move us on to agenda item 15, commissioner comments or announcements and requests for information. No action will be taken and no discussion among the members or staff will take place on this one. Any comments, announcements by my peers?
David, this is Stephanie. I just wanted to let the commission know, Mayor Bagwell passed on to me some information. She was out in Ely for Nevada League of Cities conference, and she went to the Northern Nevada Railway and their museum, provided me some information on what they're doing out there, which unfortunately I wasn't able to go on the same trip, but it sounds like she obtained some great information about some of the things that they do for marketing and otherwise. I can spend more time with anybody that's interested, but just a couple of things to mention, which I thought were interesting, is they give everybody a postcard when they leave, and they even try to get them to fill them out before that they go. That is stamped already, so that they can be sending, marketing on to somebody that they may know that may be interested in the railway, which I thought was kind of a creative idea. They also, one of the other things that she mentioned to me is, they don't do Polar Express, but every year they come up with their own Christmas theme and they have coloring books that they create. So while they don't do Polar Express, they have a very successful Christmas season. So I don't know if at some point we might get there, but they're doing it, and it seems to be really successful. The other thing that I thought was just kind of a fun thing to make mention to you is that, well, you'll see on the back of the coloring book, there's cats. They actually have resident cats at the museum. Unfortunately, one of them passed away, but the junior cat is still there, and they have their own Facebook and very popular, like thousands and thousands of followers internationally, and people come to Ely just to see the cats and then ride the train. So just some really interesting things that they're doing to market and keep their railway alive. So just thought I would pass that on to the commission as information.
That's great, Stephanie. Thank you. I
This
appreciate that.
is Michelle Schmitter for the record. I just wanted to thank Gabe. A couple weeks ago, I went on a ride along with him on the tracks to take a look at what the maintenance part of it entails, and I learned a lot. So thank you, Gabe. Appreciate that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Gabe. Any other comments
This is
from
Clay.
the commission?
I thought I would just mention
Yeah.
since I believe it's Taylor Street that was brought up, which is one of the main access streets going up to C Street. There was some storm damage that has closed it to vehicular traffic. It is open to pedestrian traffic, but we did just approve a contract. I think it was about a $55,000 engineering contract to get that fixed correctly. Nothing happens quickly, but it is moving in the right direction. So there still is access on alternates. So the Washington Street stairs take you up to Main Street, and you can, like I said, pedestrian access is available on Taylor as well as on Spring Street or Silver, though, which is over on the kind of on the other side, which loops up. But so there is access. It's just needs to be repaired properly. So.
Okay. Thank you, Clay. All right. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 16, public comment. Any public comment in the room is invited at this time.
We do have some public comment.
Okay. Thank you. I would just ask that you identify yourself for the record, please.
I'm used to this. Kim Fagert, Gold Hill Historical Society Project Manager. One comment I'd like to make about what was just said about the Nevada Northern. I was born in Ely. So along with my experience in this area, I've got quite a bit out there. I watched their operation be born. And I have for years advocated that people try to take advantage of what they've learned. They had to start the same process, starting an operating viable, tourist railroad from scratch. But the difference is they got dumped about 90% more infrastructure on their heads than this operation has. So they've had a different learning curve. My concern here is, while you may be able to take advantage of some of the stuff that you learn from them, you've got a long ways to go before you can get into their league. And I think it's important that you strive for that. From there, I was here in February. There's a couple of new faces here I don't recognize. I had a handout that I gave to everybody that steers you to some historic information about this operation that I think is valuable. So I'd like to make sure the ones that didn't get it got one. And with that, I'm going to wish you all luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rieger. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the room? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to agenda item 17, possible action to adjourn. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.